Every year, 2 million American workers report having been victims of workplace violence. Workplace violence consists of violent acts directed at someone who's at work or on duty. For example, physical assault, threats, harassment, intimidation, and bullying all qualify as violent behaviors at work. Workplace violence can be instigated by several categories of individuals. Criminal. A crime is committed in conjunction with the violence by a person with no legitimate relationship with the business, like a robber, an arsonist, or a trespasser. A customer, who's a person with a legitimate relationship with the business that becomes violent, like a patient, student, inmate, or customer. A coworker, who's a current or past employee that attacks or threatens another person, like a contractor or a temporary employee. Domestic, a person who has no legitimate relationship with the business but has a personal relationship with the victim who commits some form of violence against that individual, like a family member or a boyfriend. In many cases, the perpetrator of a violent act exhibits signs well before committing the act. However, these signals are often given inadequate attention or even dismissed. Fears of litigation cause some HR professionals and managers to wait for clearer evidence that an employee may act violently. Although a cautious approach may seem legally defensible, companies also have a duty to protect their workers from workplace danger. Taking threats seriously and acting proactively if an employee poses a threat are appropriate steps to take. Managers, HR staff members, supervisors, and employees should be trained on how to recognize the signs of potentially violent employees and what to do when violence occurs. During training at many organizations, participants learn the typical profile of potentially violent employees and are trained to notify the HR department and refer employees to outside counseling professionals. Such training requires observers to notice individuals' verbal and nonverbal reactions that may indicate anger or hostility and to listen to individuals who are exhibiting such a reaction. Specific suggestions addressed in training when dealing with potentially violent employees typically include the following. Ask questions requiring explanations and longer answers to allow the individual to vent. Respond calmly and nonthreateningly to an individual's emotions, acknowledge concerns, and demonstrate understanding of how the individual feels. Get assistance from others, perhaps a manager not directly affected by the situation being discussed. Indicate the need for time to respond to the concerns voiced and then set up another time for follow-up. Notify security and HR personnel whenever an employee's behavior changes dramatically or when a job disciplinary action may provoke significant reactions from an employee. Dysfunctional workplace interactions can create a workplace filled with hostility and disrespect. Incivility occurs when rude behavior by ill-mannered coworkers or bosses makes the targets of incivility feel annoyed, frustrated, or even offended. Most employees do not find incivility serious enough to file a formal complaint, but incivility can escalate into bullying and lead to other destructive workplace behaviors that are likely to require action. Bullying is behavior that the victim perceives as oppressive, humiliating, threatening, or infringing on the target's human rights, and that occurs over an extended period of time. Bullying, especially by supervisors, can result in damage to the employee and to the organization, leading to increased turnover. Bullying can lead to serious physical and emotional damage to targets and can result in lost time from work and lower productivity. One consideration when it comes to workplace violence is a violence response team. Comprised of security personnel, key managers, HR staff members, and selected employees, this team functions much like a safety committee, but with a different focus. Such a team conducts analysis, responds to and investigates employee threats, and may help calm angry, volatile employees. Post-violence response is another aspect of managing workplace violence. Whether the violence results in physical injuries or death, or just intense interpersonal conflicts, it's important that employers have plans to respond afterward. Their response must reassure employees who may be fearful of returning to work or who experience anxiety, among other reactions. Providing referrals to EAP resources, allowing employees time off and time to meet with HR staff, and arranging for on site trained counselors are all possible elements of a post violence response effort.